Hi guys, welcome back. Bookworm is trying to get herself sorted. I can't stand feeling sick or not myself, but hopefully I'm getting there. Okay guys, something strange I want your advice and input on. I think I know where Harry will be staying while in New York City, very likely at Billionaires Row at West 57th Street. And why am I thinking this? Well, because of this article. The heading reads, King Charles has 5.4 million Billionaire Row apartment with swimming pool and gym bought in his name. Now hold your horses. If you continue to read the article, it states that the property was secured in July by King Charles in right of Canada, represented by the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Now let me quickly tell you about this property and why I find what a little strange. Despite being halfway up this tall building, the apartment has a swimming pool and a gym and a golf simulator. Quite a nice pad, to say the least. 3 bedrooms, 4.5 bathrooms, etc. According to the article, though, the apartment was bought by the Canadian government, secured as Crown land. Remember, Charles is also Canada's head of state. Robert McCubbing, who is the Senior Trade Commissioner and Director of Trade for the Consulate General, signed the deal and stated that the unit will be used as the official residence for the Consulate General of Canada in New York. Okay, but here is the controversy. In the first articles I read about this purchase, it read that the property was secured by King Charles in right of Canada. Well, I went and looked it up, and in Canada, Crown, or then state properties, fall in 2 categories, the provincial Crown and the federal Crown, and together they form the Crown Corporation. When the state or the Crown buys or reclaims a property, it is registered to His Majesty the King in right of, say, Alberta, a province in Canada, represented by then the name of the minister for the province. Federal or properties outside the borders are registered in terms of His Majesty the King in right of Canada, represented by and then the name of the designated Minister of Foreign Affairs or whoever. The difference is that not one actually state King Charles in right of Canada, as that would make King Charles the legal entity buying the property, although represented by an official from Canada. It's a minor difference with possible legal implications and quite possibly an honest mistake by the newspapers. But what I also found a little odd was how quickly all the magazines and newspapers changed and corrected this mistake. I read the article one day and thought, oops, what is this? How big a coincidence that Harry is on his way to a week-long trip to New York City and the news breaks that Pa bought a 5.4 million apartment in the city. But when I went back to the article the next morning, it was already corrected to read His Majesty the King in right of Canada. I mean, the monarchy and the royal family can take months, even years, to correct and update their own website. But they are on top of this within an hour or two. Am I just being paranoid and untrusting, or do you also find the coincidences a little weird? We'll see whether Harry stays there while in New York. If he does, we'll certainly know, won't we? Okay, so let's address a few elephants in the room because there are many. I don't actually quite know where to start. Anyway, it is said that Harry stayed at Althorpe, Diana's childhood and ancestral home, during his visit to the United Kingdom for Robert Fellowes' memorial. This means that he stayed with Charles, Earl Spencer, Now, there are stories and stories and stories in many books about how eager the Spencer family had always been to be part of the British royal family. But what is seldom talked about is the feud and bitterness between particularly Earl Spencer and the royal family, in particular Charles or King Charles. So I don't really care what others say, but with Earl Spencer and his sister also attending the Invictus event at St. Paul's, I am starting to believe that Earl Spencer has clearly chosen sides and or sees Harry and his family feud as yet another opportunity to get at King Charles and to hurt him emotionally, of course. In my opinion, Charles Spencer had actually gone out of his way or made an effort to draw Harry in closer as Harry's relationship with the royal family deteriorated. Charles Spencer's open criticism of the royal family started with Diana's funeral, where he made a rather defamatory speech about the royal family, or then a eulogy. But it did not stop there. He continued to speak out against the royal family and, amongst other things, claimed he had been lied to about his sister's funeral procession. He slammed the decision to let William and Harry walk behind Diana's coffin as cruel and bizarre. He also claimed that William and Harry were not encouraged to stay in touch with their mother's side of the family. None of the Spencers were invited to Charles's coronation either. So although this is a rift which existed long before Harry moved to California, is it possible that Charles Spencer is using it to hit back at the royal family again? And is it giving Harry a thrill or pleasure to actually know that? From my side, I think Harry is losing his mind. He turned down an offer to stay at St. James's Palace in May, but returns and stays at Althorp. None of it makes sense. Okay, guys, the last thing I want to discuss today is this particular article. The Earthshot Prize has announced that some new names had joined forces with Prince William and his team. New names in the team are environmental activist Wanjira Matai, Indigenous activist and author Namonte Nkumu, Robert Irwin's son of the late Steve Irwin, and Nonzamu Mbatu, South African actress, have both been named the first Earthshot Global Ambassadors. But yes, I missed a name, and I did so on purpose. One other person who joined Williams' Earthshot team is none other than Jose Andreas, founder of World Central Kitchen. Does that ring a bell for you? Well, it should. I don't know what the man calls himself, whether he calls himself Jose or Jose, but I'll give it a try. Jose Andreas is the man who in April 2022 said that Harry and Meghan's support for World Central Kitchen was a blessing and that it was his pleasure to call them friends. In March 2023, Jose Andreas announced the release of the World Central Kitchen cookbook and also announced that Meghan contributed a recipe. But if you look closely, you will also find that Harry and Meghan's relationship with Andreas and World Central Kitchen actually dates back to 2020, and that their so-called partnership with World Central Kitchen represented the first bigger initiative for Archwell. In 2020, Andreas said of Harry and Meghan, "We are more energized than ever to continue this vital work, and we are proud that it will be hand in hand with Archwell Foundation and the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. I've come to know both of them well and believe that their values are directly aligned with what we stand for at World Central Kitchen." Now, I'm sorry, but it is starting to look more and more as if this is indeed becoming more about brothers competing than charity or climate change. I'm sure Jose Andreas is a great guy to have on any team, one who had also been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize a year or two ago. But if I was advising William, I would have told him no. William has Britain, Europe, and the entire Commonwealth. Why recruit someone who is supposedly close to Meghan and Harry? Honestly, it's not that I think Jose Andreas will not be an asset for Earthshot, but it is about how it looks. And in my opinion, it is really starting to look like a petty war between brothers. And for those of you who cheers William for this, mark my words today, Harry and Meghan will see it as William overstepping on their territory, and they will turn it into a petty war. Sometimes I can just shake my head and wonder what petty swine is advising the royals these days. Because whoever he is, he has no sixth sense, no insight, and definitely no foresight. Anyway, guys, I'll be back soon. As you can likely hear, I'm not myself yet, so I'm trying to get as much out in the shortest period of time because I can't sit for too long either. I'm still body sore. But don't you worry, as long as there's breath, there is life. And as long as there is life, I'll be back to chat to you. So please take good care of yourselves until we meet again on the next one. Bye.